Myanmar's military junta has not flinched from killing its own people. At least 54 now gunned down by police and soldiers, protesters in their sights. But when Rohingya Muslims told of the murderous rampage of infamous units now deployed in Burmese cities, Myanmar's Buddhist majority was indifferent at best. Brainwashed by populist hate speech and the demonization of Rohingya, xenophobia was rife.
These latent racist phobias have been around a long time.
This Burmese writer and former political prisoner is a fervent anti-racist.
What the military did after 2010 was to fan the flames. They can disseminate this kind of hate speech and fake news against the Muslims, against the Rohingya, and the more impressionable people swallowed it.
Among those accused of swallowing it was the country's civilian leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, who, when the killing spree started, under the command of the general who's now seized power, refused to acknowledge the atrocities and later defended the military in The Hague.
Let's say that Aung San Suu Kyi has shot her bolts, and she's missed a chance. And a lot of people who really relied on her to lead this country have been badly disappointed.
Some protesters have been brandishing messages of regret, apologizing to Rohingya for the army's crimes. Some Rohingya even joined protests in Yangon. And in the biggest refugee camp on the planet in Bangladesh, Rohingya have been supporting the uprising against the military junta. They could just as well have said, "We told you so." In the autumn of 2017, as 700,000 Rohingya fled to Bangladesh in terror, we met a girl called Janet Ara, aged 12. As she'd run from her blazing village, soldiers shot her father and brother dead in front of her and her little sister Anjuman. Then they shot Janet Ara twice. Her uncle saved her and carried her for 15 days. They'd had no painkillers. She told me how she used to play a lot back home, but now she didn't feel like playing anymore. Our mum died long ago, she'd said. Now we're orphans, no one left. We are so worried. Channel 4 News has been back to the vast camp at Kutupalong, crammed with stateless survivors who all knew about the coup, led by the man who'd wrecked their lives. A 15-year-old called Janet Ara knew. She still lives in her uncle's shack. She doesn't go to school. Her uncle wants to marry her off, she said, but he can't afford the dowry. Janet Ara's wounds have healed. The scars remain, though, physical and mental. Everywhere she goes, she's accompanied by her sister.
I still feel frightened when I think back to what happened in Burma. I remember everything. And when those memories come back, I feel sick. When I think of my mother and father, my heart wants to go back. But then I think of my pain and my scars, and my mind says no.
Janet Ara also knows that the army general responsible for her family catastrophe is now running the whole country.
When I heard the army had taken power, I thought, now I'll never get back to Burma. They killed us even when they didn't have control. We didn't have much hope of getting back anyway. Now there's no hope.
She'd heard Aung San Suu Kyi had been detained, but Myanmar's heroine had betrayed Rohingya, and Janet Ara didn't feel too sorry for her.
She didn't say anything when they came for us. Now she has no power. We don't cry for her. If she had sympathy for Muslims, she wouldn't have let this happen. She has shown fake love for the Rohingya. When we were forced to run, she didn't utter a single word.
One day in October 2017, this woman collapsed in front of us. No one rushed to help her. Men wouldn't touch her, it's culturally taboo. Eventually, 2 women helped her up. It turned out she was 9 months pregnant and had been queuing in the sun for hours. Nur Bahar later told me she too had witnessed terrible things, her family murdered by the military. Our team tracked her down. She told them she is ill and has had to resort to begging just to feed her children. A beggar in a refugee camp.
If we could go home and live in peace, we'd go immediately. But if it stays as it is now, then why would we go back?
She too had learned about the fate of Aung San Suu Kyi.
I heard the news from the other Rohingya in the camp. I felt happy that Suu Kyi had become a prisoner. If she had been a better person, the Rohingya people would not have been killed. I'm pleased she's being held captive by the army.
Nabi Hussein is 30 and the headman of one section of the 13-square-kilometre camp. He has little faith that his Burmese Buddhist brethren will ever accept Rohingya Muslims.
They follow a different religion. They're always against us. They will never speak for us.
He also thinks that if they've locked up Aung San Suu Kyi, what hope have they got?
If the leader can't stay there peacefully, how can we? We still hope to go back. This is not our country. Our hearts ache to go home.
There are 900,000 broken, aching, homesick hearts in these Rohingya camps, but there's a stoic reasoning too, that Myanmar's generals, probably emboldened by what they got away with, won't be opening their arms in welcome now. And frankly, the Rohingya would prefer to wait until they're gone.